Hi, I'm Chris Parker. I'm in the Mandarin Chinese restaurant here in Nottingham with the very brilliant American clinical and sports psychologist and my very dear friend, Dr. John Sullivan. John, we're here to have our last conversation. Having finished The Brain Always Wins 2, the conversation continues. And we're here, of course, having that conversation because we started our conversations here well over a decade ago about your life's work relating to brain health and function and how we can all learn to manage our brains better and improve our lives. The first set of conversations over a period of years resulted in this little beauty, which sold very well around the world. And then last year you said to me, let's do a new version. And we have. Why were you so keen to do a new version?
I mean, the two things drove, us getting together and producing a second one. You said the conversation continues. I think it does, but science is the conversation that we're having, and that continues. Good science is done in a way in which we advance our knowledge and purge our errors. And so the knowledge has increased. The knowledge has moved forward, and so should we.
One of the things that I loved about our work together, and still do, apart from all the learning that I get, is the importance you've always put on conversations where ideas can be shared in a respectful way. And you said while we've been working on this that you feel that's even more important now than it was when we started our work together in 2012. Why is that?
I think there's two things that we all lived through. That going through COVID, when we were in significant amount of lockdown, distance. Now, don't get me wrong, technology saved us in some ways. We could connect with our loved ones, we could connect with our, our friends and family that we care about. But we learned, or we should have learned, one particular thing, that video is not the same as connecting in person because it regulates us, it connects us, it creates collective potential and individual advancement, right? And so that's another reason why we should do this more than ever, is talk about how connection and that collective potential is so important. I think the other reason is that, quite frankly, we've seen the world be divided in many ways. And if we think about, it was so, 2 decades ago that you would sit in conversation with someone but agree to disagree. Now we don't even agree on the same facts. But if we're going to survive, we're going to be productive, we're going to live healthy lives, conversation is so important to connect, calibrate, clarify, and collaborate.
You said about we don't even agree on the facts, the so-called facts. And in the book, you talk about the amount of misinformation that's available in the world now. One of your greatest skills, I know you don't like me saying this, is your absolutely incredible ability to make science accessible, available, and useful to people like me and my mates. That's really what we wrote this for. One of the great things about this book, and it's still true for the new book, of course, is that it helps anybody, people like me, to create our own brain management process so we can improve our performance in all aspects of our lives. But it's as of much use for people in the elite military, elite sport, elite business, all arenas in which you've worked extensively. But how do people now know what is fact, and if you like, what is misinformation or inappropriate science fiction, or just a story made up to promote somebody's agenda? How do we manage that?
I mean, I think that's when you ask that question, it's quite complex, right? But I think as human beings, we do have a responsibility to be hunters and gatherers now of the truth. Because if we don't, when we look at our ecosystem of information, all of us can be fooled. Doesn't matter if you're a scientist or you have expertise elsewhere, we all can be fooled. But the last person we should fool is ourselves. And so we need to apply science, because science is a way in which we can find truth. That's why it was designed. It's the only thing we found so we don't fool ourselves. And so what we talk about in here is, one, we need to be explicit about the science, what it says and what it doesn't say. How does science work? And then also, how do we find truth in an age where we're back to hunters and gatherers again?
In this book, in the new version, we still focus on your incredible bespoke brain management process where any individual can take aspects of their physical activity, their rest and recovery, optimal nutrition, cognitive function, emotional management, socialization, communication, the synergy, the process, and create their own personalized, bespoke brain management program, because you say the brain is the governor and it's so important. Just in a few sentences, why is the brain that important? Because I can't feel it, I'm not aware of it, you know, I'm aware of other parts of my body, so it's hard to sort of relate to it. Why is the brain the governor, and why should I prioritize looking after my brain?
You've highlighted one of the amazing things. Like, the brain is so amazing that often most of what it does is in the background. We don't have access to it. It does it with automaticity. It predicts, it doesn't react. And then the things that we have access to in our consciousness are about our survival, about our growth, about our energy management and adaptation. So that alone should give us some awe that there's all this stuff happening in the background just to serve us. But at the same time, our 11 other systems are designed to serve the brain. The brain and body are coupled together. They're not separate. They're not these separate entities. Never have, never will be. And so what's amazing is that each other system is designed for our brain to function at a high level. And as long as we take care of it, it can do that. It can serve us.
Thank you. In this new book, of course, we're adding in new conversations, new content, new stories, new further reading, new activities that people can choose, and no academic references. Very simply, the brain always wins now. For as long as human beings are around, is that always going to be true?
Well, as science evolves, we may find some other subtleties that have to do with why our brain is the most sophisticated survival system in the known universe. But what will remain the same, that there's no independent intelligence outside of the brain. It is the governor. There's no way to avoid that. Anything else is just conjecture and breaks laws of basic fact.
And I accept you saying that the brain is the governor, but I'll tell you someone else who might be the governor to many people. Carl Jung. Can I just say that to you, John? And on that note, my friend, thank you for another great experience writing The Brain Always Wins Too. The conversations continue.